hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.
Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. 15 days to flatten the curve. The invisible enemy, you've got a nerve. Don't go to work, take a break. Here's some free money, shut up and eat cake. Bread and circuses, that's what she said. I get the feeling she wanted us dead. Wanted us in the ICU. Yes, I do mean you and you and you. Get them hooked up to a ventilator. Kills them quick. See you later. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Masks are good, masks are bad. I can tell by your eyes you're looking sad. Madonna's singing about fried fucking fish. Hanks has put Cappy in a petri dish. Alan Degenerate going mad in his pad. Let's talk about Michelle, now there's a big lad. Stay in, or you're gonna die. COVID-19 is the porky pie. That's what we call the theatre of war. Don't question us, it's the fucking law. Sick of it yet? We've just begun. JFK Jr., the forgotten son. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Bill, Melinda, and Dr. Death. Needles everywhere till there's none of us left. Vaccination, eradication, extermination. Go to 17 for your education. Hubba, 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 who do you trust? Maybe the dams are gonna bust. Underground bases, dums. Secret operations, cleaning the scum. 22,000 kids every day. Believe it or not, you need to pray. Welcome to the nightmare, the new world order. Hidden in bushes, mental disorders. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. Lockdown, shutdown, breakdown. 3D, 5D, reality tears. Attack of the clones, in basements, everywhere. Vatican gone, Parliament gone. God save the Queen, time for a new song. Through the looking glass, the quantum system grins. I've got some non-fake news for you. God wins.
Turn that off, that's okay. Charlie May was the girl that had the child injected vaccine at school without her knowledge down in Cornwall.
Do you believe that's a real story, or is that part of the theatre?
Well, look, I was told it was not a real story. She's come on, and my social media behind the scenes have said her Facebook page has existed for a long time, and she's a bit of an unusual one, quite a character, but I'll try and establish whether it is or not, because I found out the one in Madrid was a smoke screen, and I've got a sneak feeling this one is too.
I think they must be, because I went into a panic about it yesterday with my kids.
Yeah.
And not because of that story, because I'd seen this thing from the World Health Organization saying that you give an implied consent for the kids to have vaccines. And I went into a little panic, and I was like, hang on a second, hang on. This is all designed to show us how bad it would be if they won. And because I know the truth, and so I calmed down after that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I've put the title of your three poems together, which actually could be read one of two ways. Either God wins if we see you.
Oh, I like that.
Or like we see you if God wins. Well, we know God wins.
That is brilliant. Never crossed my mind.
No, I prefer the God wins if we see you.
Yeah, well, I think God's already won.
Of course he has, but he's putting it out there. This was a very critical point when I started off my journey, where I used to say, Jesus loves you, even if everyone else thinks you're a CUNT. And then I changed it to twat, but that was the whole principle of it. Remember, Jesus loves you, even if everyone else around you thinks you're crazy. And it was to try and appeal. And also the other statement that I use quite a bit is, if to reset your moral compass, if you believe in God, you can trust in him and talk to him. If you believe in Allah, you can talk to him. And if you don't believe in anyone, talk to your mother or your grandmother.
Yeah.
But these are things that I try and appeal to people outside of just the easy Christian circle, which is I've always said if you've got a bright light, it's very easy to shine it in daylight. It has no benefit. It's shining it in the dark place that gives it value.
Well, you are the sage of the age, Charlie.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, because there's all this. Actually, a lot of the things that come out of your mouth are ancient, passed on through wisdom that's been passed on through time. That probably goes back thousands of years. You know, this is where,
exactly right.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes when I listen to you, it reminds me of talking to my nan years ago, and you know, she'd always come out with stuff like that, and
simple stuff.
And my dad brought me up with this firm belief in common sense, which I just don't see anywhere. You know, well, I do. I've got loads of people with common sense now around me, but you know, if I look at some of the stories that I'm hearing from the kids at school, it's mind blowing what the teachers are doing.
Oh, it is.
They've got absolutely no common sense.
No, none whatsoever.
None.
But it's because our universities and our training centres and everything have been completely contaminated.
Oh, I know. It's just, I mean, there's a couple of anecdotal stories, like a kid the other day that I'd heard of questioned the power of the mask to stop things, and he got sent out of class. Another kid I know was in a politics lesson, and the woman was going on about the teacher was going on about Joe Biden, how great he was, and then this kid that I know put his hand up and said, well, you know, what about all these things Trump's done? And she just blanked him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's supposed to be teaching politics, not teaching her politics.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And this is what we're up against. It is. But the kids are standing up. This is one of the things that I'm really happy about, the amount of young people that are talking about this stuff, you know, and questioning it. It's just fabulous, actually.
Justin was doing exactly that at school, and the smartest kid in the class was vehemently sort of defending her position, and Justin's just been pointing out the facts. And then it was very interesting that this little kid's mother, who I get on very well with, came up to me and just gave me a little poke and said, can you tell me what's going on? So obviously got back to the mother.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah. So I talked to her and I said, look, I'm going to show you something that I shouldn't really show you. This is my intel I'm getting. And she went, wow. So, because my intel comes directly from behind the walls of power. And just by complete chance, it was almost like a hand of God was on me. I actually got a mention in the intel saying that what Charlie Ward is saying on this particular issue is absolutely spot on. And every now and then they'll throw those things out. I've probably had 3 or 4 mentions, but just because I'm one of the voices out there that's saying things, but also guided on what I can and can't say.
Yeah, of course.
And so every now and then you'll get a little pat on the back saying that was well delivered in that area, just to enlighten people a little.
Well, you know, since it's been 4 weeks since I spoke to you last, I think, and what a month it's been. I mean, it's just.
The next one's going to be even better.
Oh, you know, that's the stuff going on outside there. For me personally, it's just like amazing things that happen to me personally on a daily basis, like. Vibrational frequency is the best way of putting it. When I hear truth, it literally comes through your body. And then I don't know if have you seen JCK's video from Australia?
Yeah.
She's just amazing. And bang, you know, she had 100,000 views in like a week.
Yeah.
I think Charlie Freak's just done an interview with her. I don't know if it's gone online yet, but just amazing. And everything she talks about, for anybody not watching, she's a medium who's she was tapping into through deep meditation and remote viewing. Now, I've studied remote viewing. I've done a bit of remote viewing. Most people don't know that remote viewing had, the only thing that had more money spent on it militarily during the Cold War was nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, they spent billions and billions on this psychic ability that we have to astrally project and go into, I could come into your office and read your papers over your thing. And they got to the point where they could psychically kill people. So remote viewing is a real thing, right? Yeah. And she's done that, and she went underground and basically saw hell with demons in, and a cyclops and this row of, you know, this like factory line of children being devoured. And I mean, it's a horrific image that she saw. But the really weird thing was for me is that she mentioned this Minotaur. Okay. And then I was like, oh my God, because I had this image, this vision that I'd not told anybody about because it was so out there. But it was I was meditating, lying down, trying to make sure that my pineal gland was working, and then suddenly this fucking huge minotaur appeared. Well, I can only describe it as a minotaur. It was like a demon, like a real proper demon, but it was a silver body with red flecks, and it was sort of huffing at me, like, "Are you scared of me?" And I was like, "No, I'm not scared of you." And it was more real than anything. I can't describe how real it was. And I kind of forgotten about it, and there's nobody to tell about it either. And I think this happens to all of us a lot. We get these synchronicities, we get visions, we get dreams, we get all this stuff, and then we get on with our day, and then and then days have gone by, and you forget about it.
Yeah.
But when I heard her mention this, and she described it in exactly the same thing that I'd seen, I was like, she's telling the truth. And then when you listen to what she was talking about, I was like, I recognize all of this. Yeah. And then you look into the DUMBs and deep underground bases, and you look at genes decoding videos, right?
Yeah.
And you realize the vast scale of this.
Yeah.
And in every DUMB, he's saying, this one's a heavy demonic presence. That one's like, they're working with the demonic. And it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And you've got this whole culture, this whole world underneath our feet.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got onto that. No, I got onto that because of JCK and the truth vibrations. Because when this fight 3D, my YouTube channel has been really about talking to other people about 3D to 5D, demonic possession being real and all that kind of stuff, as well as, what's going on in the world. I was at the Dublin protest last week at the Yellow Vest, and the frequency there was amazing. So everything's really, for me, since I spoke to you, has been heightened in terms of going with the flow of the frequency, so that when the door comes in front of you, you walk through it. And when you walk through, without worrying about the consequences. Hence, writing poetry and putting that online is just like, it's just about following the frequency.
For a normal person that doesn't understand the difference between 3D and 5D, but the basic, very simply, it's moving outside of the box from being inside a box. And the oldest saying in the world that we all knew is, you can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
Because when you're in a forest, you just see everything. When you step back, you look at it, it looks completely different. You start to see it from a different perspective. And now is a time to look at things from a different perspective. And what you've been talking about there, wow, it sent shivers down my spine, because I've talked to 3 ex-CIA operatives that I'm not allowed to publish as yet, that were telling me about some of the stuff that was going on that they were involved in back in the 70s. So they're now clear of their 20-year silencing program. And even then, they couldn't talk in the 1990s because of who was in power, because they were deeply involved with this satanic evil side. And it's only since Trump has come along where they've been able to open up about it. And Trump has actually found lots and lots of them, and taken them on for intel. Well, Trump's team have. The intel that they're getting from it, like what you just talked about some of this remote viewing and stuff like that, they know firsthand. These people are invaluable to, first of all, one of the most important things in growth is to understand where we've come from. It's all very well burying history. Oh, we didn't do that. Oh, we didn't do that. We need to understand that before we can grow in anything.
Well, that's why they've hidden human history from us.
Correct.
I mean, I've been studying. You've had one of my heroes on your show, Michael Tellinger. And Michael's stuff is just amazing. Once you see that 6-foot granite footprint, then you've got to go, hang on a sec. I mean, that's just the simplest thing. Giants were real. They were real.
I'm going to tell you something.
Oh, go on.
I haven't told anybody yet, and least of all Michael Tellinger, because he and I have been talking about his One Small Town project.
Oh, I love that idea.
And I've found a financier that's absolutely the perfect match for it.
Oh, where can I move there?
Do you know what? This is very interesting, Mark, because the question I had was, where do you start one small town? Because what it would do is Michael said to me, the first town we start with would be where they would manufacture these generators for every other town in the world. So that it would make that town incredibly wealthy long term, not just from a financial point of view, but from every angle. My first thought, funny enough, as a town or an area in England, that would have everything correct in its DNA would probably be the valleys of Wales.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where they know a community spirit better than most.
Yeah.
They've had everything they ever had taken away from them.
They were decimated, weren't they?
They were completely decimated by politicians.
Yeah.
And it would be a beautiful place. And on top of that, they can sing.
They can sing brilliantly. I had a Welsh guy on the channel the other day, and he said the bread of life saved his life because he's
exactly right. Exactly. Do you know what? When I go out for my walks, I'm letting the cat out of the bag here. I listen to the male voice choir from Wales. That inspires me when I walk because it's just such beautiful harmony, and the word is harmony. They're in a phenomenal choir in Wales. That the harmony is just incredible. When you're out walking along the seafront, listening to the Welsh male voice choir, is just the two go together. They just
hyd yn nos.
Exactly.
Hyd yn nos Iachida.
Exactly. But when you think about one small town, the philosophy, we say one small town, it could be one small valley. But it was one great valley.
Absolutely. I had somebody around here the other day, and I've got during the lockdown, me and my friend helped me build three little no-dig garden plots. Anyway, the plants I've got in the garden, I said, I've got too much. But, when I was planting them, I was like, this is ridiculous. This little area that I live in, a tiny plot, everybody chips in 10 quid a week, everybody's fed. That's the end of it. It's the end of the supermarket. It's the end of all the pollution. It's so simple.
Do you know what I love about one thing I love, because I travel so much, and I thought about this, and I thought, wouldn't it be lovely when you travel to put 3 hours a week into another community?
Yeah.
So you could connect. So what you then do without thinking is you decimate racism.
Well, I'll tell you. Let me tell you this story, because when we first moved to Marrakesh, I had this big villa, swimming pool, everything else, and loads of land. So, I've got a gardener to help, and we got this thing. And then my wife planted a load of melon seeds, right?
Yeah.
Thinking we'd get 5 or 6 melons. Like a month later, we had like 200 melons, right? I was like, there's no way we're going to eat these, right? So I had this Land Cruiser. So I got the kids, and I said, let's just fill this with melons, right? Because a melon there, out of season, is a day's wages.
Yeah.
So then we drove down to the next village, and because we were like 12 miles out of Marrakesh in a dusty sort of area, and the villagers were just beautiful people.
Yeah.
And I just opened the door in the middle of this village that was empty, and just I can't remember his name, but the guy just whistled.
Yeah.
Kids just appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We were just giving melons out, right?
Yeah.
And just melons. After that, we were known as the Melon Family, and we were really well looked after. They have a network. When they knew whenever I left the house, where I was, what I was doing, and everything. And one way it was a bit freaky because it was like, well, you can't do anything. But the other way it was like, well, I'm totally protected here by these people. And they honestly it was so amazing to get to know them that way, because it broke down all the barriers. Because on one hand, I'm this rich guy in his big house. On the other hand, we're really nice with these people, and I got to know them and went around their houses for dinner, and the generosity, it was just stunning. But it does, it just breaks down.
I had a similar sort of thing, but not with fruit so much. But I went into a shanty town in Mexico, and I was told not to go there because they said they will kill you and they will eat you. I said, well, I was 17 kilos heavier. I said, nobody's that bloody hungry. So I've got into this town, a shanty town. I've driven in there in this sort of 4x4. And there's almost like an old guard that stood there looking at me going, what the hell are you doing? You've got cows walking down the road. And it's not a road, it's just a track. And chickens and everything, pigs and everything all out in the street. So I've just stopped and got out and just walked over to these guys and basically in Spanish said, cerveza, caña? Well, you want a drink or want a beer or something? And they're looking at me like, what are you doing here? You're lost. Anyway, we went to this little bar area, and it was just a shack, if you like. And the guy gave us some beers, and then they called their mates in, like were pointing at me. There's this big fat bloke that's just turned up here with deep pockets, and they bought them a beer and bought them a beer, and then within, I promise you, no more than half an hour, we were laughing and joking. And I still don't speak good Spanish, but we were just having a laugh.
Yeah.
2.5, 3 hours later, I'm back at one of the guys' mum's house having dinner.
Yeah.
Then you start to realize what racism actually is. It's a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding. And when you go into these, sorry?
It's fear. We get impregnated with fear about, whatever. And yeah.
We got married as well. The other thing which I love, we got married in Barbados 5 years ago. And we were staying in St. James's. And the hotel we got married in, people from all around came to work at, but they walked in. But we noticed that when every now and then you get this tropical rainstorm, and when it rains, every car around just stops and picks up people. So we did the same because we were out there for a week. So on the odd time it rained, we did 3 or 4 times. We just stopped and filled up a car and took them all to where they were working. And it was just like a normal thing to do, and it was so lovely.
Well, that's the same in Morocco. People are just walking on, you just pick them up, you take it, where you going? Salam alaikum, the best, get in the car, drop them off. And it's just, sometimes they're a bit grumpy, but you get to meet incredible people that way. And it's that flow. It's that flow where everybody, what I'm really loving about this awakening is that I'm seeing incredible collaboration.
Yeah.
Between, there's no egos with anything. I've got, some of the people I've met on the channel, people like Nicholas and stuff like that, just no egos anymore, where it's just like, well, have you spoke to this person? Have you spoke to that person? And then it's like speeding up the whole thing in such a beautiful way. I'm loving it. But that's my perspective. Then I pop into the car this morning, go to the garage, and everybody's looking at me with their mask on, like, where's your mask? You can see. And it's like living in 2 worlds, isn't it?
It is. But, we're on a process, and I've pointed this out a few times, that I'm a 60-year-old bloke. I started off with 37 subscribers. We're now over 166,000 on one channel. I've been banned from uploading for a week for yet another honest review. This particular one was a Spanish one where we had
I heard.
We had the police come out and say that this is wrong. And that got taken down in a hurry. And when I appealed against it, it was rejected in 21 seconds.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you say that in the video.
And that was one. And then we've just had another one, which I've actually appealed against and sent them proof of what we said on the CDC website, the WHO website, the US government website, and the British website, government website. And I've said, I'd like you just to point out what part of my video is incorrect, because then I'll take it up with one of these 4, because they have it published. And I'm sure it will get rejected again because it's left-wing bots that are in there.
Well, that's the reason why I've not sent those same links to the schools, because they're freaking out about the kids not being exactly 2 meters apart, and they're sending out emails to the parents. And I'm like, can I just? The only reason I haven't is because my kids have asked me not to. They've said, look, I just want to see my friend. Yeah. And I'm like, is it a fight I really want or need?
Yeah, no, I get that.
So I'm like, I'm not going there. But I think it was David Icke that said we're in a post-truth society.
Yeah.
And that is, never more apparent than right now.
Well, the way I cracked the egg at the school that Justin goes to is that I'm very fortunate because I'm from Ipswich originally, and the headmaster's from Norwich.
Norwich.
Holmans
of Norwich.
Exactly. Yeah, he made all his money. He made all his money on what people left on the side of the plate. He was very proud of that.
Well, I used to go to holiday at Great Yarmouth when I was a kid. California Beach. I don't know if you know it. It was fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
Gorgeous place.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, that's okay. So I just said to him, obviously masks are only for people from Norwich. We don't need them in Ipswich. So I started off with a bit of humour.
But it always helps.
Sorry?
It always helps. That's how you're going to connect with people.
And then the minute we start off with a bit of humour, it sort of cracked the ice. And then we started talking about things. Now he's very, very open about it. But I had to point out to him the other day that one of the teachers was blackmailing the children in class the other day and said, I won't give you a cuddle unless you wear a mask. Because all the kids get a cuddle when they leave. That's just morally wrong.
Oh, well, look, it is basically child abuse, and it is a Luciferian ritual that the kids are going through. However, that's their soul path as well. But I've been thinking about this deeply because I've thought about education deeply for years because I had 5 children. And I remember being in England, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago, where one of my kids came home and said, "We've just been taught the food pyramid, Dada." I said, "What do they say?" He said, "Well, basically it says, it's not saying what you're saying, it's saying that bread's healthier than broccoli." And I went, "What?" and then the next day, the kids got, because I had all this organic food and everything, and then I give them a lunchbox with organic boiled eggs and nuts and fruits and berries and, you know, really, really healthy stuff. And they came home and they said that they got kicked out of the dining room because they had an egg. And one of the kids in the school was slightly allergic to eggs. So I went to see the headmistress. I sat down and said, "What's this all about?" And she said, "Well, one of the kids is slightly allergic." I said, "But all the other kids are eating Jaffa cakes and blah, blah, blah with all these processed eggs right in front of them. My kids have the healthiest food going. And you're kicking them out of the class and making them feel ostracized and making them feel weird because they're eating healthy food." Yeah. So anyway, got out of that. And then I got into Ken Robinson. I don't know if you've seen his TED talk called "Do Schools Kill Creativity?"
Okay.
And he's anybody who's got kids should go and watch his videos. And I mentioned this to the headmistress. I said, "Have you heard of Ken Robinson?" She said, "No." I said, "You're the headmistress of a school and you've never heard of the world's leading authority on education. Something's not right here."
Yeah, yeah.
So then we set up homeschooling. So the kids had homeschooling in Marrakesh for like 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And then they come back to this system.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you know, one of the, you know, you talk about the quantum financial system and then the quantum voting system. I think we need a quantum educational system, right? Which is blockchain based and quantum. This quantum idea is really getting under my skin at the moment because it's brilliant, right? And somebody said I was mentioning this to somebody the other day and they said, "What do you mean quantum educational system?" I said, "Well, if you have true market forces, which is what blockchain allows you to do, and it's an irrefutable record, right? That means that every teacher that's talking shit, everybody will know about it and they'll be gone. So you've got this very quickly, you'd have a global education system based on truth, because the quantum element of it would be about the frequency of what's going on, plus the irrefutable record is there in the blockchain, which then allows the teachers to be rewarded based upon how good they are, right? Because we're moving into an attention economy, which is another big concept that people can't quite get their head around because they're so used to the slavery system and the taxation system. But then you get this, and then the knowledge spreads instantly. And just before you know it, you've got this incredibly beautiful, natural educational system where nobody's under the pressure of putting on a time, going at a certain time, clocking on and clocking off. And then you gravitate towards the education that suits your personality. Yeah. Because what Ken Robinson talks about is it's a sausage factory designed to get people who are obedient workers. I think George Carlin said that you're obedient workers. Yeah, that's all you are. Yeah. And you know, and that can happen. This is the future. This is what the golden age means. You take that quantum idea of the financial system and apply it to food, education, and everything else. Wow, what a future!
Incredible, isn't it? When I started this journey and started learning about where we were going to, I only saw a fraction of where we're going to, and it was beautiful. And where we're actually heading to now, especially what you just said there, if you and I are thinking of that, you can bet that Trump and his team have already got it planned.
Oh, I've got loads of ideas like this. So I mean, I want to build a worldwide network of natural birthing centers, right? Where women have orgasmic natural births. Now that sounds nuts to some people, but I've witnessed it with my twins. Birth is pain-free that's the other purpose of the orgasm. People don't realize this, right? Because going through the birth of my 5 kids, my wife went really deeply into it, and she interviewed a bunch of people, and this was about 8 years ago, and she interviewed one woman who said that the whole birthing system was satanic. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy talk. Then I looked into it and I was like, it is. You know, there's things like the babies are not allowed to touch the ground when they come out. They have to go in this aluminium thing, which is all a satanic ritual designed. So right from before birth with the vaccines and everything else, they are literally trying to take our souls away, right? And our souls are a big thing. So they take a piece, they take a piece, they take a piece. This is why you have fragmented souls as you get older, which is why soul retrieval is part of the healing process. Yeah. And imagine that. Imagine a whole world with kids, with no bleeping machines and bright lights and changes in midwives and drugs and all this. Imagine all those kids being born really chilled out. You change the whole human race overnight.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So the future, I'm really excited about. I mean, I could talk here all day about demons and all that kind of scary stuff, but I really think they're done.
Yeah.
You know? They're done. There's a few left to get rid of, but I think they're done.
I think when you look in Trump's face right now, and I pointed this out to a few Americans, and they absolutely love it. After 3.5 years in office with the abuse he has, he looks younger than the day he started.
And that's extraordinary.
Suggests his connection to God is a lot greater than any of us ever expected, because he's getting a strength from somewhere, and he's quite clearly totally in control of what's going on right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at those peace deals. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
When that happened, the smile came across my face, because I've known with Israel and Palestine they've been like that for a long time. We all know that. So he's gone, well, let's leave that. Let's leave that. It's like the big bully in the school. Let's leave that. Let's get everybody else around. All the other Islamic states, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, it'll be Qatar next, it'll be Saudi Arabia, it'll be all these other countries around that will just come in and say, yeah, we'll have a peace deal, because the peace deal will obviously have a number of things attached to it which will be hugely beneficial to them. Because Trump's a businessman. We have an old saying, what's in it for me, as with them. What's in it for me? And they'll all be looking at what's in it for them. And they'll look and go, wow, that's what we need right now. So he's being a businessman, he'll try, as with all good businessmen, to create a win-win situation rather than I win and you lose, which has been all the previous administrations have been, we win and you lose. He's gone into it with a completely different view on how it should be done. And it's working.
Well, of course, it's common sense. Again, back to that. But I'm still facing friends of mine. They're like, well, I liked your poem, but I can't get my head around this Trump thing because he doesn't like people of a certain skin color. And I'm like, I've given up trying to explain. I said, you've got to find this out for yourself. And it's just, and then I realized it's because they're in their frequency. It's not my job to tell them anymore.
If you can keep your head when all about you are wearing masks and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when your neighbors doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait for the lockdown to be over, or stop believing in government lies, don't deal in lies, or being hated for posting truth on Facebook, and use your intuition to get wise. If you can dream the golden age to come here faster, if you can think for yourself but not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with Trump and avoid disaster, and treat those two just the same. If you can bear to be called a conspiracy theorist, a CIA term to make a trap for fools, or watch long-held beliefs become absurdist and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap from all your crypto and get some gold and not give a toss, and lose your debts and start a new beginning and never breathe a word about it to your boss. If you can force your nerves and courage to speak your voice when it seems they're gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the strength to face the dawn. If you can talk on YouTube and keep your virtue, or speak your truth without losing the common touch, if neither trolls nor loving friends can hurt you, if all followers count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minutes with 60 seconds worth of meditation in 5D, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a multi-dimensional being. You'll see.
This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. And on the other hand, I'm not going out there saying Trump's amazing and is saving us all, because I think it's all down to all of us to work with this energy and create the future that we want. But yeah, it's extraordinary, the grip. But it is I think it's lessening. I think that
it's
the social
definitely
media,
lessening.
yeah,
When people wake up to the fact that Black Lives Matter is nearly all white people, and that black people actually do really like Trump because he's done an awful lot from them.
yeah,
There's something I found that was very interesting, Mark, that just blew me away. When I studied and started to investigate about adrenochrome and the abuse of children, that was a shocking, shocking thing to find out.
yeah.
Then I found out something that made my heart just glow, that the most valuable child that they want is a baby black child.
Yes, yes.
So the value of a black person suddenly goes through the roof, and they need to understand their value is far greater than they know because it's been suppressed by the white man.
Well, that's why I put that line in one of my poems about the children of Haiti, because you know, I know that was deliberately engineered weather to displace all these. I mean, it's just beyond belief.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, we're all equal, and we're all gonna find that out pretty soon. And
I found it out years ago.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the rest of the planet. You know, the people that are.
And Morocco's a classic place of that, because I visited Morocco 35 years ago, and I've also visited it in the last few years. And to see the transition was amazing, but it's still like you still get pestered a lot because it's in their DNA. They're trying to sell you something. They're trying to do, especially in Tangier, but it's calmed down an awful lot. But when you get to talk to these people, they're just lovely people.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They're beautiful people.
Yeah, the Berbers and everything, they're all connected to the land. But even I know Berbers that are buying into the fear porn with everything else, and it's because they've been disconnected.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, if you go down to the Sahara and sit outside under the stars there, and you're on the ground and you listen to the drums and you're around the fire, you can't be in a better place. And that's ultimately what being a human being is. It's just like this. It's like you know, you have in Spain mañana. There, it's like inshallah. You know, can you get this thing done today? Inshallah. And it's like, when I first got there, I found it incredibly frustrating because it's everything's just very chill out.
For those who don't know the translation, it means God willing, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, but then you get into the groove of it, and actually, you know, it's like I was in Mallorca not so long ago, and I realised that I'd had a traumatic event years ago in the water, and I was with a friend, and she said, "Just come swimming with me. Right, hold my hand, hold my shoulder." So I did, and I swam out to this boy, because I nearly died in Spain in a really bad tide about 25, 30 years ago. And then anyway, I swam back, and she was talking about the fact that the water holds you if you just relax in it.
Yeah.
And that analogy for me is exactly what we've got to do going forward now, is just trust the universe, trust God, that you are being held, you are being protected, and we're going to get through this trauma. But the more that you trust it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
And the door's open. You just got to follow your intuition, follow your heart, and everything will be fine. And I don't mean that in a kind of like, oh, you're going to have your ass saved and you don't have to do anything about it. You've got to be an active participant in that spiritual process. Yeah. And you know, I've eaten loads of since I last met you. I've eaten more vegan salads than soft Mick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a steak and eggs man, and then I'm finding myself going, do I want steak and eggs or do I want to chop up all these vegetables? And I'm finding it's like I'm actually surprising myself. You know, I want to eat this, and this is what the subtle things that are happening.
I love healthy food anyway, but I'm a farmer's boy originally, and I still love my meat, but I eat a lot less of it now than I did before. And just funnily enough, yesterday I made a bolognese. Now, I've done tuna bolognese before, which is lovely, but yesterday I made a beef bolognese. And it was one thing, because my wife is away.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she's gone across to Bulgaria.
So you're down the chipper every night, yeah?
Oh, no, those days are well gone, because it just goes straight up my middle, just too easy.
No,
I made a kilo of bolognese. And the lovely thing with the bolognese is you can leave it there and just go back to it every day and just have a bit more, just heat up some spaghetti or some pasta or whatever, and just put it together. And it's just very simple. And with Justin, you know, he has what? No, I'm not hungry now. Yes, I'm hungry now, and it's absolutely perfect for me because he gets hungry at random times.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because through the realization that magic is part of the control grid, right? That we're literally been under a spell. I've studied a lot about magic, and one of the things that really freaked me out when I was studying this is that just the act of eating at a certain time with a knife and fork in a certain position is a ritual.
Yeah,
is in and of itself, and it's not in the flow, right?
Yeah.
So it's everything that goes against the flow becomes a ritual, is part of a spell, and that's quite a head melter, actually, when you start thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, actually, that thing on the wall behind me is. Can I talk about? We're going to talk about the poems at all on this.
Yeah, by all means.
Because when I started the channel, which was kind of your fault because you gave me the confidence to do it, and I was saying to somebody the other day, it was an idea in my head that I couldn't stop thinking about, which is my soul basically saying, right, get on with it. And I got on with it, and then I was thinking, I want to sum things up in a way that gives people hope, right? Without necessarily having to listen to a 3-hour interview. Because I mean, I love listening to good interviews, but 3 hours, you do 2 of those a day, and that's your whole day gone.
Of course.
So I was, and I've written poetry for years, but I saw that This Is If on the wall, which was given to me when I was 10 or 11 by Mrs. Haygates. I don't know if you know Haygates in Budbrook, the village that I used to live in.
Right, okay.
She was basically the lady of the manor. My mum used to be her cleaner. I'd go around to her house after school. And then she taught me about knives and forks, which position they go in, because nobody in my family knew that. And she'd teach me about etiquette. She showed me, she was very rich for over a very long period of time, like Mrs. Havisham or something in a Charles Dickens novel. And one day she gave me If, this poem by Rudyard Kipling. That poem has saved my life, time and time and time again during dark days. And I was looking at it and I was thinking about actually just doing a video version of that. And then I read it and I was like, well, that poem was written by Kipling for his mate when his son had died. And yes, it's been very relevant to me. But when you read things like the last line about once more you'll be a man, my son, I thought that's not really relevant to now. And I'd like to update it. And then literally just wrote it in about 5 minutes. And then, because I don't think it's me writing it. And then before I knew it, it was filmed and then it was out and then you put it out and it's like, well, that poem's had like 50,000 views.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, you know? And it's not gratification for, I've got, there's no part of me that wants to be, I'm a famous poet. It's not at all. It's like, if the truth is coming out, then it's going to flow and it's going to go. And that's what everybody should do, is go to whatever their skills are. Somebody said to me the other day that I've been in training my whole life through being a pilot, then a poet, and then a businessman, and then a public speaker, and all these things, and a marketer, in order for this time to be able to do my thing, my contribution, right? And I think everybody watching this should be thinking, well, what is it that I love doing? How have I been prepared? Because make no bones about it, every experience in your life up to this point has been about preparing you for this point.
Correct.
So you go with the things that you're good at, right? And we all make our contribution, and it's not about who's the biggest and the best. It's about, oh, that's good. Look at that brilliant thing that they've just done. Look at that brilliant thing. Look at what they've just added to my life. How can I add to their life? And it's such a simple philosophy. And Michael Tellinger's Ubuntu, that ancient African idea, philosophy that means if it's not good for everyone, it's no good at all.
Yeah.
So simple, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's what you just said there is absolutely nailed it. There's so many things that happened in your life and my life that were insignificant at the time. And we look back to them now and go, wow, that's the value of that is now coming to fruition.
Well, when I first spoke to you and I realized that you knew people that I knew, and then you validated a story that I knew, and I was like, well, this is, wow. And that's just getting more and more and more. I interviewed somebody the other day, and she said, oh, we've had loads of lives together. I said, oh, yeah, actually, yeah, I can see that. And, we're Arcturian soul seed, brothers and sisters. I was like, okay, this is the way it is now. This is the language that we are now starting to speak openly, rather than being like weirdos in the corner.
Well, it happened to me again only yesterday. I was interviewing Wendy Smith, who was the Paralympian wheelchair basketball player, and I'd interviewed her before, and she sent me her book over and what have you, to allow me to look at. But it was after the interview, and her inspiration was my uncle.
Whoa!
And I haven't seen my uncle for 30 years, and I mentioned it to her, and she put us into a WhatsApp group last night. And I spoke to him for the first time in 30 years. His name is David Henry. He was the hurdler in the 1960s. He won gold medals at the Olympics.
I think I remember that name.
Well, he won the Champion of Champions, so he's got the Wilkinson sword for that as well, which is he loved the most. But David Henry was the blonde-haired 400-meter. In fact, in those days, it was 440 yards high hurdles in those days. And he held the record, I think, for 10 years, a world record. But yes, he's been an inspiration. He's still linked in with the athletic scene. But I was talking to Wendy, and she said, "Well, he's been my inspiration." I said, "Well, he's my uncle."
Oh, wow, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Isn't it just absolutely beautiful?
Yeah, and we have all these tiny connections to people. Like, you know, I was thinking the other day about how many presidents I'm actually got 1 degree of separation from, you know, these you know, gods or whatever, and all these strange coincidences. Like I was in Georgia once at the Jimmy Carter's pilot's house.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And so he was the guy who flew Jimmy Carter around in the 70s while he was on the election run. And I was there with somebody, and they were discussing JFK in this room. And then they said, "Oh, Mark, you need to leave now." And so I had to leave, and I go stand outside. And I've always been intrigued by these kind of these secret conversations that go on about how it works. And when you really get a vision of how deep this stuff runs, like one of the things you said at the beginning of the conversation reminded me of a terrible, terrible man that you might remember called Ted Heath, who was, you know, I got very. I used to go to a restaurant near Bournemouth where he would go, and he always had a young boy with him, and he always had an MI6 guy with him, and his energy was horrible. And David Icke talks about the fact that he was sat in a living room, in a dressing room with him, and it was like his eyes were black, and he wasn't there. Yeah. And you know, this whole possession thing is so fascinating. If you think about the Vril, have you heard of the Vril? Yeah. Yeah, so the Vril, you know, Hitler knew about the Vril, the Vril Society, the SS, all connected. These little horrible little reptilian things that live underground with a thing. And they stick a thing in your eye, and they take over your whole body. And that explains why you've got all these psychopathic arsehole politicians that have been, you know, don't give a damn about anybody because they're not human. Yeah. You know, and then you think about V, the series in the 80s, you know, which was, and They Live. These are really documentaries, you know. Yeah. So it's crazy times, and it's just really exciting. And
I love the way that you're able to put it into a poem, because there's different ways to connect with different people. This is something I'm learning. Some people you have to be, I always talk about it because of the farming connection, as to being like a shepherd. That if you try and push sheep, they go everywhere. But if you sort of whistle them a bit, like you were saying, look, the whistle for the melons, just that little whistle, they come with you. They come with you. And that's the skill set that you and I need at the moment, is to get people to come with us rather than pushing them. If we push them, they'll go away.
Oh, 100%. But that's how they've managed to control us. You know, I was at the marches in Dublin last week, Yellow Vest March, and it was, I said it earlier, it was amazing. And at the beginning, I was walking around it with two of my kids, and there were police on their horses. And one of my daughters said, why are they on horses? I said, to scare you, because they're quite scary. Look at the size of these horses. And then there was a Black Lives Matter, which was really funny, because it was like, oh, Black Lives Matter in the middle of the street. And then they just disappeared. Mm-hmm. And it was like this, what I'm saying is that, you know, I was explaining that one police person can control a crowd of like thousands of people, because they're like sheepdogs. Yeah. Right. But it's all about the fear in the mind of the person that allows them to do that. If you vibrate at the right frequency and you walk through, the police were lovely. Yeah. Everybody was lovely. There was no fighting. There was no nothing, because the whole crowd was full of, it wasn't a political protest. It wasn't a anti this, anti that. It was pro-love. Yeah. And it was a beautiful thing to see. Mm-hmm. And it dissipates. You know, it dissipates the energy. You know, you can't. So I learned this from Stuart Wilde, reading one of his books. That when I'm going back to Marrakesh again, but when we first moved there, the as usual with Morocco, all our furniture was held up in customs for weeks and weeks and weeks. Then they wanted extra money to get it out. Then it had to be delivered. Then it got delivered. They took all the stuff out. These 5 or 6 guys took all the stuff out, and it was like 50 degrees. It was very hot. And then they left the piano and this table and a big sofa, and they said they wanted €2,000 to get it out. And there was big fights going on, blah, 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 blah. You know how Moroccans, argue. It sounds like they all hate each other to death. So I just lay down on the floor on a piece of cardboard and like this, just looking at them. And I'm sure my former wife would disagree with what happened, but I know what happened. I changed the energy. Mm-hmm. Within half an hour, they removed all the stuff. They didn't want any money. Sure. So we have to get to this point where it's not about confrontation or shouting at people. It's just about showing the way, right? Which is what you've been doing fabulously. And I'm very grateful for what you've been doing. And I'm grateful to see all these other people popping up.
Well, what Trump has done in the Middle East is exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's taking all the wind out of the Palestine's sails, because Palestine, if you're a betting man, you can bet they'll be the last one to be asked to come to the table when everybody else has sat down.
Well, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Palestine's going to be the one we're going to see. That unbelievable. You can't even imagine peace between Israel and Palestine.
No.
A few months ago, but I can see it happening now.
I can, very clearly. You can see the plan of how it's going to work. And you're absolutely right. If you change the dynamic of how you go about things, instead of all this fight, aggression, and people go, what about this? What about this? Just leave that for now. Let's get this sorted out. Let's come at it from a different angle. Then suddenly it falls into place. I liken it to making a puzzle, because sometimes I'll put the piece of the puzzle in, but it fits, but it's just not right. And then I need to talk to somebody else to realize that the piece is actually upside down. And if you just turn it over, it's the same piece in the right place, but the wrong way up. Things like that make it so easy to create a beautiful picture. And we're on an amazing journey. The Great Awakening, I had no idea. It sounded lovely, but now we're starting to get an insight into what that really means. It's incredible.
Oh, it is. On one hand, you think it's just, when I first saw that with Q a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, at last, people are going to realize there's all these Satanists in charge. And now it's like, that's just part of it. That's just a part of it, because it's totally about going inwards and finding, because all the answers are inside.
Yeah.
And, this is my journey. I'm starting to realize that. And it's a beautiful thing.
But your poems was the reason for our conversation here. You've got 3 poems there: God Wins, If, and We See You. And they're all different, but they've all got a message in them. And this is the whole idea of poetry and songs and everything, is to have it deliver a message. So, sadly, we live in a world where a lot of the songs that are coming up, the message isn't good.
No, it's not good. No.
But when you get a message that is good in a poem, it's beautiful. And your 3 poems all have a message, and it's moving across out of darkness into light.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely way to be able to do that.
Thank you. I mean, the one We See You is most people that say, they're like, whoa, what? Yeah. And it's hard to explain to somebody that doesn't get it. It's trying to put a lot of ideas into one short thing. Yeah. There's lines in there that people probably don't understand, and I'm not saying that in a patronizing way, but things like the CRISPR spy. Mm-hmm. I put that in because I wanted people to go and research what CRISPR means.
Yeah.
Because CRISPR is the technology that Jeffrey Epstein was heavily involved with. Yeah. That changes through RNA, the DNA of your entire, what it means to be human. And then you look at the DUMs and everything else, and they've been doing all this gene splicing stuff, and it's just horrific, but you don't want to say that in a poem, but you want to lead somebody to the idea, right? Because it's real, and you need to find out for yourself. The same as Q leaves breadcrumbs for people to go and work stuff out. And, I thank you for saying that. It's just nice to contribute in whatever way you can.
Yeah, and you've nailed it there again, because of the fact that what you've done is just dropped a little seedling without forcing somebody. It's like a little whistle, where they don't. Let's research what that word means. I do it a lot with when people don't believe a word of what's going on. You just say, well, let's start from a point of truth. Let's start from that this was downgraded to nothing more than the flu back in March, and it hasn't been reclassified. in the whole time. So it's nothing more than the common cold. Once you can establish that truth, then the first question is to say, why are we doing all this? Then you know you're on the first rung of the ladder.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. But people can't join halfway up the ladder, because I had somebody, this was a little bit of me being naughty and a little bit of fun. Because we got people that haven't followed the whole journey, and they're saying, so Trump shut down the whole world and he's crucified the economy. And I said, no, that's not true. It was shut down by the deep state. And they were trying for a new world order, but it's been taken over by Trump and managed. And because of the time bomb I dropped the other day with King John III, with Greg Hallett and Dave Mahoney, I said, Mahoney, I speak to him 2 or 3 times a day, and he was like, well, you could have given me more of a warning. I said, well, I did tell you before I said it that I was going to say it. He said, but I didn't realize it would have the impact. I said, the next one I'll say is, when people ask me about the world's economy being crashed, I say, that was down to Greg and Mahoney.
Yeah, it's all them.
He's got, don't you dare. So it's like you can have a bit of humor with it, but it's amazing. I've had people who've edited pieces out of my video and put it together to make a completely different story, and you just go, it's a bit like a Bullion story. You just go, whatever. The truth will always shine through. But out of my videos, 98% was the average of people who like them, 2% of the haters, and I'm quite happy to live with that and just completely ignore the haters, because they've got their agenda, I've got mine. My agenda is to create calm and take away fear.
Well, the haters, I've learned a long time ago that demons and angels come through people. And, this demonic energy is a real thing that has had people tied down. They don't even realize that they're possessed. I mean, entity possession is 99% of the world, which explains all this behavior that makes us compete and fight and argue and everything else, which is not our natural state at all. Right. So a lot of trolls are either paid or robots, but there are people out there that are looking for one little thing that you said so they can pick you apart. Yeah. And it's not that time, because you said many times that, somebody will tell me something and I will interpret it and tell you in the way that I tell it, and somebody will tell her the same thing in a different way. But you add all those pieces up and you follow your heart, that's why I did that video about you a few weeks ago, because I was like, because you were being attacked or you were in some sort of online fight, and I thought somebody's got to. I just felt the need to stand up and say, well, this is what I think. I appreciate that, but I really appreciate the support I've had from you and from many other people. I've become a bit of a rhino. Yeah. My parents disowned me from the age of 23. Yeah. And then my mother died, and I found out 6 months after she died. Nobody told me. And that was quite painful for me at the time, but you develop a suit of armor. Then losing my son 11 years ago, that was pretty painful as well. Yeah. And then losing my younger brother 5 years ago, that was painful. So you develop this sort of another layer of skin, but you do respond, because inside is the biggest softie you've ever met. So when people actually say, I appreciate what you're doing, it actually means an awful lot to me. But when people attack me, it's just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, water off a duck's back. Exactly. But the lovely comments, they resonate because of the frequency that's inside me, and the frequency of which it's coming from is a very similar frequency. So the resonation is beautiful. Thank you. Well, a lot of people are grateful for what you've done, because, doing what you've done in the last few months has taken, from an outsider's point of view, people that maybe, there are people looking at you saying, what does Charlie think about this? I'm like, well, he's not the Messiah, but look at the balls you've had and the work you've put in. It's you're on a mission from God, right? It's got to be, and that's the way I feel now. And it's like, and it's not a religious thing. Somebody said to me the other day, oh, it's like you've joined the religion. I'm like, but it isn't. It's just waking up to the power that's within you, because we're going into a world where all these psychic abilities that you've already got, we've all got them. Remote viewing, levitation, all that stuff. We all have those abilities. They've just been locked off from us for so long while we've been harvested. And I'm so fucking angry about being my whole family and all the ancestors that have been harvested by these demons. That I'm like, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm here. I'm going to shine my light. I'm not perfect. I've done loads of stupid things in my life, But right now, I feel like I'm standing in the frequency of God, and it's beautiful. Come in. The water's lovely.
It's also a lot more fun to shine your light in a dark place.
Like you said, yeah.
Because then you light up things that have never been lit up before. Shining it in the midday sun is no excitement at all. The excitement is shining it down a dark hole. Then you start to see what's going on in there, and they can see the light. And when somebody sees the light, that in itself is a beautiful moment.
Oh, it is when you see that, especially when the rats scurry away from it, because
exactly.
Yeah. So, oh, there they are. Let's go and get them.
Exactly.
Whew.
Yeah.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, Charlie.
Now, I've already published your If poem. I want to publish the other two as well, because, but I was actually going to wait until I'm allowed back onto my big channel with 166.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, because they're very special poems, and they've got, and as Mark says, if there's words in there you don't understand, research it. It will lead you where Mark is trying to lead you, which is beautiful. And we'll work next week. I think it's Wednesday. And the good thing with that is we've already loaded up 8 or 9 videos on the new channel, which has been shadow banned already.
Does it?
People can't find it. So that we're having to, what we've done is we're putting the link. We put the link to the new channel on the last video of the old channel, so that people can click on to go to the new channel, because there's now, I think there's 8 or 9 or 10 videos already that we've done since we got banned that are on there, but they'll all go across onto the original channel. We're learning lessons. And what we're going to probably do is, if we're saying something controversial, I'll do a 2-minute video telling you about what we're doing and telling you the platform that we've put that video onto, so it can be viewed.
I think that's the right way to do it. Yeah, but you got Lee in charge, and what a geezer.
Lee's doing an amazing job, and we've also Tara Dean has come on board as well.
Tara's amazing. I spoke to her the other day. She's absolutely amazing.
She's a mind of information, and she's got a good moral compass.
She has.
And we've got a team behind the scenes that have come on board and are helping out, and they're all on the same frequency, which is absolutely beautiful.
Well, the frequency I'm on with Lee is that we'll send each other stupid pictures and jokes at midnight while we're watching videos.
Exactly.
Did you see did he tell you about, there was a night you were doing a video, I think it went live at about midnight, and then he put in a load of jokes just for me, chatting as you in the live chat, and then I was responding to him. It was like 2 little kids. So
I love that.
I was absolutely wet myself.
Yeah, no,
nobody knew what we were talking about.
In a time of fear,
yeah,
as in the Second World War, what got people through was laughter, humour. And when the chips are down, if you can't laugh, then you'll struggle through anything. But if you can find something, and it's very often silly little things like 2 little boys playing together. The thing is that I've learned in my life, Mark, my godfather, Dawson Buck, who I've mentioned on a number of occasions, he won't admit his age, but he's obviously considerably older than me, and I'm 60. His godfather is Mike Hawker, who's considerably older again. And Mike, I absolutely adore Mike Hawker. I mean, he's one of the most wonderful men you'll ever meet. And he's retired from the chief of police of the Midlands. I mean, he was right up there in the Midlands. But still in his late 80s, he's still got a sense of humour, like we have in our teenage years and our younger years. He's still a little boy inside, ripping to get out. Yes, he's mature on certain levels, but he's got this lovely way that is this little boy still inside him. And it gives me so much faith in humanity to see a man of such good standing and good stature that's still got a naughty little boy ripping inside him to come out, which is beautiful.
It is the best thing in the world.
It is. And look, we're living in an amazing time. And I'll say this to everybody who's watching now. Mark has got some beautiful poems out there with meaning that have an awful lot of content in there that are just, at a time right now where people are living in fear, you can do one or two things. You can go to the valleys of Wales and learn to sing, or listen to them sing, or you can read Mark's poems and listen to Mark's poems. The one thing I like with Mark's poems is Mark delivers them. Now, I'm not a very good reader, but I have many, many biographies and autobiographies in audiobooks because I like hearing the person tell their own story. So Mark has actually very kindly put together his poems in video format, so you can listen to them, so you can hear the expression, which for me carries a lot more weight. And I love them, Mark. They're absolutely beautiful.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Well, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. I can't wait to meet you.
Same with you.
I'm looking forward to this party.
After all of this, we're going to have a few parties as a thank you to everybody who's helped us on the journey.
Well, I imagine it lasts in a few months.
It'll be great fun. But thank you so much, Mark, for joining me this morning and going through that.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
And, you too.
You take care, Charlie.
Cheers, Mark.
We see you. The scales have fallen from our eyes. The veil has drifted down from the sky, meandering firmly, finally revealing your depth of depravity. That's fear you're now feeling. We see you. Your demonic bloodlust laid bare to see, the statue of filth on the BBC, the prince and the madam, the crisper spy, the islands of horrors in the ocean lie. We see you. A billion souls stolen over the years. You hid them deep down to drown their tears. Perfect and innocent, God's own creations, mutilated by your sick machinations. We see you. Vlad the Impaler and his vile descendants, fleeing the palace from the 5D ascendants. The virus distracted, but gave us the time to peel back the layers of your heinous crimes. We see you. Run, run as fast as you can. Back for more orders from the Phoenician clan. Out of White Rabbit, the looking glass cracked. Tipping point reached, odds against you now stacked. We see you. Pizza and hot dogs, pasta and sauce. Your sickness decoded your lack of remorse. Our slumber is over, our eyes not wide shut. For the children of Haiti, a knife to your gut. We see you. Ascension is powered by the light of the flare. Scramble like rats to the ruins of your lairs. It's over, it's over. Save our children, we cry. Revealed, reviled. It's your soul's time to die. We see you.
Hi, it's Justin, and I hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.